Welcome to Voices Gathering Live. It's your host, Diamond. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you can be here. I am glad that everyone showed up and is in queue on time. I do apologize for any technical difficulties, but I'm glad you are there. So please give a thumbs up if you can hear me now in the chats before we jump into the conversation. Please confirm you can hear me, and we will get right into this conversation. Can you guys hear me out there? Because I'm definitely not going to bring in my guests and you can't hear us. We don't want those issues. Okay, awesome. You can hear me. Thank you so much. Okay, so welcome to today's show. As you know, all the house rules, you know them. Use the thumbs up button. Make sure you jump into the conversation by posting your questions and giving your feedback. And please make sure you stay tuned to this interesting, well-needed conversation. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my host, who I'm so excited to be here with me in this conversation. Many people come to my office asking me all these questions. And I said, well, you know what? Let me find someone who is well versed in this, someone who is doing the work and have an impact on Black love. And I want to introduce you to Dr. Shane, who is a psychologist, author, speaker, and founder of African American Marriage Counseling. Dr. Shane serves married and unmarried and premarital couples. His services are designed to help clients deal with issues related to a range of challenges such as I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore. I need to rebuild broken trust, reconnect, loss of intimacy and lack of sex, get your spouse to change, avoid separation, or stop a divorce. While he can't change you or your spouse, his goal is to help you start to hear each other and begin to develop skills that will start to resolving problems with a win-win versus a win-loss solution. So without further ado, let's bring in Dr. Shane into this conversation. And by all means, when I say to you, please don't hesitate. Jump right into this because you're going to love what he's got to say. Hello, Dr. Shane. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Diamond. I am excited about being here, and I think you chose the absolute most important topic for a lot of people, Black love. So I commend you, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, 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 awesome. I'm sure that whatever that little glitch is happening over there, it will resolve yourself. Your camera's doing a little something funky, but we're going to keep moving with this train. So Dr. Shane, please, if you would just take a little moment and share with us, the guests, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. More professionally, probably, I'm a Black psychologist. Ain't too many of us out here. Less in the marriage and relationship and Black love space. But it has been some of the most rewarding work you can ever imagine. They show us on TV and nightly news, and my couples don't make it right. They don't show us on nightly news, but they're very newsworthy. They fight, they sacrifice, they invest in their families and marriages. And if you're out there looking at the press clippings, you are thinking, is marriage for Black folk? Remember that book they had in that Washington Post article they had with the little Black kid, young man, and they interviewed him. And he said, is marriage for Black people? Our relationships for Black people? And he really didn't think they were because he had never seen none that work. So tonight, I'm going to give you the inside scoop on the reality that they do work and how do you increase your chances of it working for you.
Awesome. That's great. So before we jump in, unfortunately, you can't see yourself, Dr. Shane, but your camera has totally distorted you, and the viewers say they can barely hear you. Yes.
So you can you see me now, or is it just a bad? I need to
It's
go to the other camera.
no, you're just totally distorted. We only see your shirt,
All right, I'm gonna
unfortunately.
go to the FaceTime. Can you see me now?
Not okay, hold on. Yes. So let's move you into yes, we can let it fix itself. um, because they
Okay, so
are
I just went to my computer camera, so we're fine.
okay. Hold on. Let's make sure that that fixes itself where the viewers can see you because there, okay. Yes. So this is better. Yep. So Dr. Shane, when you're speaking, if you can speak a little bit louder because now we can see you and I heard you, but the viewers said they couldn't hear you. So thank you again for being here. I am excited to talk to um, not just a psychologist, but I'm glad to talk to a black psychologist who know about the black experience. You know, they say go where you can be fed. And oftentimes I do believe that people end up going places where they can't be fed because those people cannot relate to that experience. But I did my homework and the study I looked at on you, boy, someone with 6,500 participants in the services you render speaks volumes. So, again, thank you for embarking on this conversation, Dr. Shane.
Thank you again for having me, Diamond. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but we are here and we are ready to go.
Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about this topic, Black Love Experience, because Dr. Shane, I'm going to start it off right from this door. What I see oftentimes when it comes to Black love and relationships, they're not always positive. Most time, Dr. Shane, they're very negative, very disheartening. And the individuals who come to me as a life coach, motivational speaker, and a counselor in different aspects of counseling, I'm listening to a lot of these people with these challenging stories. So I wanted to talk to you and get your feedback on a few things, and I asked the viewers to share some questions. So can you tell me first and foremost, what is the biggest ratio of people first who come to your establishment, to your services, for your programs, to get services? What is the biggest ratio? Is it men or women when it comes to those who seeking support for relationships?
Yeah, for me, probably 75% is couples. I do exclusively, not exclusively, but primarily couples. That's 75% of the people that come to me. Usually the woman has made the appointment. If the man has made the appointment, he's usually in hot water.
Mm.
And I just say to all of you. So I think of it as a rule of thirds. One third, no matter what I do, boy, they're just, it's too late. They late, dollars short. Let don't live there no more. Just the way it is. But they may need to co-parent. And so my goal is to help them co-parent and become friends again and do what's best for their family. The second third, they're going to stay together. Maybe they have young kids, maybe someone's pregnant, and they have to figure out, boy, how do we maybe get to be friends again? How do we figure out what does our family need us to do? And the other third, they're underachieving. You know, they're with the buzzards, the crows, and the pigeons, and they know they should be up there soaring with the eagles. They have it all. They have the potential to have it all. And how do I help them get back to the reality of, no, we really can be happy again? I know when you said people come to you, usually it's like, boy, this isn't good news. And a lot of people think that. But what I find, honestly, most couples that come to see me don't struggle from a lack of will. They struggle from a lack of skill.
Mm.
And so I really focus on how do I get them the skills to hear each other, to resolve conflicts in a win-win, to acknowledge each other. And those sound like simple and basic things, but they go a long way.
So the individuals who come to you, and it sounds like, if I heard you correctly, oftentimes it appears to be the woman who's actually leading this journey to getting whatever it is that she believes is needed for the relationship, and then oftentimes men are coming in. I hate to say this, kicking and screaming, but now either he wants out or he wants to kind of fix what he hasn't been working on prior to you supporting them through this process. Correct?
Kind of not. The reason I say kind of not is really important because it's like,
Yes.
I don't need for someone to be excited to come to see me. I'll tell people say, hey, my spouse don't want to come. I'm like, just tell them that I said I wanted to hear their side of the story, which will make most people come. who wants to go and talk about a problem that they've been unable to resolve? So to me, it's a natural resistance to what I do. So I don't worry about that part. As long as they come in there present, even if they're pissed off, I'm like, we're gonna work. This is gonna be fine.
Hmm.
It's just I don't think that's how we naturally resolve our problems. I think a lot of times our problems get to you or I, they've gone over them. I think there's no new way to see it. And so there's that natural rejection of it. But I
Hmm.
find the men that come in do really well. And that's just me being honest. Now,
Hmm.
I said when men call, they're usually in hot water
Okay.
because 90% of the time it's women that call. And
Hmm.
if a man's calling, it's because stuff has just gotten like really bad. He didn't mess up bad and he's like, "Oh my God, babe, please don't go." Yeah, I'll go to therapy. I know you've been talking about it the last 6 years, and they come in, but it isn't a barrier to treatment. The attitude that they come in with, just that they get there.
Interesting. That leads me to this thought. So, Dr. Shane, when men who are seeking your services or therapy for their relationship, do you find most men are coming into your businesses looking to save their marriage or looking a way to actually leave the marriage in a healthy way?
So this is what I found. Very few people. I mean, I have a cash practice, so very few people are coming in to see me more than twice. That just want to check that box. They
Okay.
want to check that box. They don't come to see me. They're going with their insurance provider. But usually, and it has to be my assumption. Like I have to assume that people want to work on it, or I don't give them the benefit of the doubt. Now they may not think it's possible for various reasons. They might think, "Oh, this person's never going to change." But that doesn't mean that the people that come to see me don't indeed want to work on their marriages. Usually they do. It's my assumption. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes. We lost Dr. Shane's camera. Uh, Unreal. Okay,
Okay, we're
there
back.
there he
Yeah.
goes. Okay, awesome. Yes. Yes, that does make sense, Dr. Shane. So here are some of the questions, and I think this is going to lead us into some of the things I wanted to actually bring up. So, first and foremost, when people come in and they're sitting on that couch or a couch with you and talking, and I don't mean laying down with a pillow under their head, but what about this honeymoon phase? Is there such thing as a honeymoon phase?
From coming to see me?
Yes.
That's a good question. I've heard that with people that boy, it feels good to be talking. But one of the first things I tell people, and it's a very powerful question. One of the first things I tell couples, they're like, well, give us homework. Tell us to talk to each other. I'm like, no, you're going to continue to talk like you've been talking to each other. Your
Mm,
job is just to have a good time and to get back to what brought you together in the first place. Because a
mm,
lot of times, couples do great life shows up, right?
mm-hmm,
You get a promotion, you have kids, you're too hectic, you don't enjoy each other, and you lose that love and feeling. Not because you don't love each other, but you don't do the things that let it be expressed. We're holding on to these anger and resentment. So my first goal is for them to get back to kind of
mm-hmm,
what you're describing as that honeymoon phase. I never thought about that to just now.
mm,
But it's like, hey, your job is to have fun. We'll have the hard conversations together. A
mm-hmm.
lot of times couples feel disconnected and feel like they don't have that. But frequently they do. They just don't put it in a place to show up anymore.
So, but what if the one person is working? So let's say this two couple come into a relationship, and they both come in, no, not one above the other. They both come in with this mask, a mask of this is who I am and this is what I'm willing to do in the relationship. But someone starts to take off a mask that doesn't please the other person, i.e., here's an example. Let's say one person is a workaholic and the person believed when they got into the relationship before marriage, we're going to work together and we're going to accomplish great things. But the other person starts to slip off from that and deviate from what actually connected the person. How do you work someone through that process?
That happens a lot. Couples come in and I think you're kind of describing where they slip into bad habits.
Mhm.
You know, some people are just deceptive. They're just workaholics and they're not going to tell you about it. But when every couple comes to see me, I always, the first session, have them walk to what I call the story of YouTube. which walks us from when they met till today. So if a person is a workaholic, they were never not a workaholic. It may have been they both were in grad school together. It may have been they both were starting a company together. One person got to the point where they felt comfortable financially, and the other person's goals just got higher. And so they just kept that going, or a crisis occurred. And that was the way that they responded. They didn't realize that, there are other love languages rather than gifts. There's other love languages rather than providing. Some people want quality time. So the thing that really causes them as a problem is they don't communicate well when their emotional needs clash. And
Mm-hmm.
my job is to help them cut a deal, like you were saying in the intro, and get that win-win when their emotional needs clash. Because that's when our listening is the worst. We just double down on our position. We don't hear or acknowledge their position. So it's my job to say, no, if they're saying that you're not spending no time with them, they're not lying. They're not being an ingrate because they got all these great gifts. They're saying, hey, I need you. And just getting them to really hear what emotional need needs to be met.
That's interesting because when we think about people identifying what their emotional needs are, oftentimes we kind of start labeling these sexes. So I know the stereotype is that women have a more awareness of their emotional need than men. I know that's the tone out there. I know that not to be always true, but I've run into people who say, well, you're being selfish because one, you want this, but I don't want those things in the relationship. When I came into the relationship, this was enough. And the other person feel like they're dragging the person along the relationship journey. I need you to show up for me. How do you help one just I don't know if the right word would be teach or rethink how they take the journey together. And let me shorten it. One person wants something greater than the other person wants. Let's say start a business. The person got into this marriage and this is my partner. We're going to build a life together and we're going to be successful in establishing something greater than just this. But the other person said, this is just enough for me. I don't want to do any hard work or anything. What is your feedback about that question?
So I'll give the bad answer first, right? If you're super ambitious and you got a lazy partner, that's just going to be a struggle. A lot of times, what I find is people don't like what else comes with that. So most people in business, if they make $100,000 or six figures now, they're not happy. Someone not making six figures at their job, like we're doing great.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make 200. They want to make 400. So some people just don't stop and do a hard reset and say, what are you telling me? What do you need? It's not that they don't want them to be successful. Who doesn't want their husband or their wife to make more money? I've not met that person. Boy, now you're making that money at the expense of us, at the expense of the family, at the expense of our intimate life, at the expense of our quality life together. And if I could hear that and get them to hear each other, we could figure out frequently how to cut a deal. Like I had one a husband, he was really his love language was gifts. Her love language was quality time. And he's like, what do you mean you're unhappy? Do you see all the stuff you got in your closet? Most women would die for that. That's what we all hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she says, yeah, but when's the last time we did something? And he couldn't hear that. He thought she was an ingrate, right?
Mm.
And so finally we said, let's just cut a deal. Why don't you do a staycation? And they agreed to do a staycation every 6 weeks. And the first couple of times we went over to the MGM and then went to Philly, completely changed their relationship. So the problem is really when their emotional needs clash, Uber provider, hey, I'm here all day with the kids. I got 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, no one to talk to. And the twins about to drive me crazy. And you're gone. I need you. So we just really have to always listen to each other and trust that no, they're not an ingrate necessarily. They just want to be happy. Let's figure out what that will be.
That's a good one. You keep coming back to this emotional clash, the emotional need, this clash. I want this. I need this. You want that and you need something else. And due to the lack of communication or healthy communication. Because I say to people oftentimes, there's different set skills when it comes to hearing and listening. You can say I hear you, but are you listening to what it is I'm saying? Is so important. You can say I hear you. Well, you can hear a whole bunch of noise, but I bet you if I ask you to restate back to me what I said, you're going to put it in your own words, which does not line up to what I'm saying. But thank you so much, because I think that the audience needs to really hear that this clash. And the people that end up coming to me when they have these clash, and they're not coming to me for marriage counseling. That is not my expertise at all. They're coming to me because other things has happened, and that marriage issue has exacerbated these other issues in their lives, and now it's totally out of control, and they're just ready to throw in the towel. What about those who have not had role models to look at? So for I don't even know what the number is, and maybe you would know better. People growing up in homes with one parent. So they have not seen the example of what true black love is, because they have not been modeled in their home. How do you help someone who don't know what love is when it's staring right them in the face?
So this answer may surprise you, so fasten your seatbelts. I forewarn you, right?
Okay, I'm holding.
Yeah, hold on. I had this couple, and he was a pastor's child, and his parents have been married for 35 years, right? She was the product of a teenage pregnancy, never really knew her father, and they were coming, and he was telling her, our problem is you've never seen a marriage. She said, that's not our problem. And it wasn't their problem, because she was fighting for a marriage harder than she was, because she had this very fantasized notion that you never give up on marriage. He thought that because he saw a 35-year marriage, he had 35 years worth of marriage experience. He hadn't. So I think there are some more fundamental things. Does that help? Does it help to have a good role model that says compromise versus someone that says you can't trust a man or a woman to do your own thing? Absolutely. But I just say it's like, can you stop and listen? And the key word that you were describing it actually really well. Most couples come to me, 63% of couples come to me, say they got a communication problem. It's usually a trust problem. And not are you cheating trust? Well, boy, you're going to identify and try and meet my emotional needs, or am I going to be abandoned after figure it out by myself? He felt because he had experience, he didn't have to adjust to meet her needs. He could just put his experience of being the son of a 35-year marriage on the table, and he didn't have to change anything. But in reality, he wasn't listening to her. And he needed to stop and really hear her, because she was fighting desperately. She did not want that marriage to end, and she was dealing with a lot of stuff. So it doesn't work out as exactly as we think. If I had to side with having parents that could give you great advice, I would, because they'll help you cut a deal and they'll help you figure out how to trust your person.
That's good. Wow, that's good. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm smiling because I'm thinking about two people right now who actually is walking in that space. And oftentimes they go to, well, I've never had anyone to actually role model what a healthy relationship looks like. And Dr. Shane, forgive me for thinking this way, but my mind goes to what is really the number of black people who grew up in homes with both parents and saw that love language. It was just beautifully displayed for them. This is what they strive for. This is what they wanted. I'm really confused I just really believe that there's a lot of people who don't have that. They don't know what that looks like. They're trying to figure it out as they go.
I agree. And I think you have an important point, but my challenge is this. That's the numbers I'm dealing with. So I have to deal with the people coming to my office and say, what's the best chance of you succeeding? Are our marriage rates lower? Yes. Are divorce rates higher? Yes. So I have to figure out why. And when it comes to answering that question, having a two-parent family isn't a predictor of a good or a bad marriage. What is it? This. So the divorce rate, average 45 to 50%. Everybody knows those numbers. If one person has a child from another relationship or marriage, this is black or white. It
Okay.
goes up to 65%. If they both do, it goes up to 70%. If she makes more money, the divorce rate's higher. But
Wow.
don't freak out people in the audience. With an intervention, divorce rates drop as much as 30%. We're least likely to get an intervention. That's why all those numbers were high to start with. So I'm
Mm,
just saying, it's like I unfortunately can't just treat the well. I have to treat people with challenges.
sure.
And so I can't let that be an excuse as to why I'm not able to get them the support. It's like, okay, you've never seen this done, but you have to know every time they tell you something's wrong, you shoot the messenger. Ain't working for you.
Mm.
Universally, if you start off a conversation with a criticism, 93% of the time it's going to end up in an argument. I don't care if you saw a single or you had, you have a couple of parents that are married for 100 years. If you start up your conversation like that, it's not going to work.
Mm. Do you believe that media is hurting the Black love experience?
Yeah, I think it has been for a while. I mean, if you think about it, so they had Steven Spielberg making their movies. We had rappers making our visual images.
Wow.
And so when you look at those two people where they are at in their life, media is. I mean, it's never been our friend. We've never been portrayed in a positive light. But, and I'm going to say this because it's really important. Like I started out, and we may have been blacked out during that phase, but you don't see my couples on nightly news, but they fight for their marriages. They invest, they go in, and they go hard. I'm booked solid. Like I said, I got a cash practice. So we fight, we invest, and we do care about our families. And I don't want to say that that's not the case because I'll be another person portraying a negative image that doesn't represent where we are as a society.
You're back. There you go. It's okay. So, wait, so I want to just go back to this question again about media hurting the Black love experience. So, yes, the Steven Spielberg making these wonderful love story movies and portraying what love, I guess, supposed to look like, right? And then you say rappers and and this entertainment
Luke
playing roles.
Skywalker making our images.
Playing this role of what the love looks like. And I absolutely, I'm appalled at it. I'm disgusted by it. I am absolutely turned off by what is supposed to be reality TV when it comes to how and I don't want to blame people who are putting on the shows, although some of them look like you and I, but I'm blaming the people who step into the roles and play this role and portray this very negative image of what love looks like. Because if that's the truth, then the younger generation coming up who are dating, not ready to marry, and trying to figure this out, they have no hope for true love.
Yeah, and there are some positive images too, blackish. I mean, there are some positive images of black marriage too that are out there. So I, I'm not a rosy person, but if people come to my office and I don't believe they got a chance to make it, I've done them a disservice. I can't not believe in their ability to stay married. So does that put me in a position to be more positive? Yeah, but I'm saying here for a good reason. If two people come to me, they booked a Thursday night at 7 o'clock. They
Hmm.
cleared their schedule. They made an appointment. They took years to make an appointment. They're going to come and talk with me for an hour. And at the end, they're going to give me a check instead of going to dinner. I have to assume that they're committed. And if I don't, I'm taking their money and I'm not doing them a favor. So I'm not being all rosy for anyone out there that may hear all this and say, "Oh God, he's just selling us Kool Aid. He's on the Kool Aid." I'm not. I just know we fight and care about our marriages a lot because I see it.
The bad thing of it is I wish more media was covering that. I wish we would hear more about that. That people are actually in positions of fighting for their relationship and their marriages, and opposed to what we believe out here is that actually people are throwing their marriages to the side. They don't want to be in these committed relationships any longer because it's too much work. It's become very toxic. It's not. We're not raising our children in a safe environment where they're emotionally safe. You hear more of that than you hear actually people going to therapy and working on those issues in their marriage and coming out successful.
It's sad but true. So, I always stay compared to what, right? So people say coming to see me is expensive compared to what? A divorce attorney is going to charge you a couple $100 an hour more than I do. You know, uh, Boy, you're unhappy now, but the reality is this. You get divorced, now you got a new person, they got a new person, plus you got new kids involved, plus you got their ex, and however that ended or didn't end. Now they got to deal with your ex, however that ended or didn't end. Your life is far more complicated.
Mm,
So yes, it's stressful and it's difficult, but it's not compared to where it's about to be. Because remember, I said divorce rates go up to 65 and 70% when one or both people have a child from another relationship or marriage. So it's just recognizing where you are in your marriage compared to where you're gonna be. Boy, it may be more stressful. Does that mean everybody should stay together? No, absolutely not. But stop and think, am I really going to invest and fight the fight? And is this person worth the fight? Even though I don't like some things, how do I cut a deal? We're back to that, right?
mm. So it's really about a give and take, and this whole and maybe I'm using it wrong, but when I hear this, you say cut a deal. I think people would look at that as very much like, okay, let's make a deal here. But when you explain it, I see it on a more deeper level. When we're talking about let's cut a deal, I see that as cutting the deal in a way that says, wait, one, what do we have to lose if we go work on each other in this relationship? What do we have to lose? I mean, why throw in the towel before we actually try to do the work to see if this relationship, and let me not say relationship, this love can be rebuilt? Not looking at it as just a relationship, but this love. We have a question here. Let me see. Um, you have chosen to show up for one another every single day, no matter what the day looks like, because they ain't all going to be rosy. Okay, someone says you're going to show up for each other every day, but it's not going to always be rosy in those relationships. And another person who asked the question, what about a husband and a wife in a relationship and your children is impacting that relationship? And we're talking about adult children. So you have adult children living in a home, and mom and dad are on two different paths about these adult children, and it's impacting the relationship. What is your advice for that?
I see that a lot. I see it a lot, and a house divided just won't stand. I
Mm,
think parents have to come together and decide, hey, what are my priorities? Because it quickly shifts from God's spouse, blankety, blankety, blank, to
mm,
God, children, blankety, blankety, blank. And that's fine if you don't want to remain married to that person. But if you do, because you're kids, I guarantee you, when that special person comes from them, they will discard you and leave you high and dry and not be as concerned about what you did or how it impacted your marriage. I think it's a tough thing for parents to do, is to let go in that way. And it is something I've seen break up marriages. I call them family feuds, where we
mm,
have these family fights.
mm-hmm.
And I've seen people that love each other not make it because of that. So it's something, if you find yourself in that situation, that's one of those that I say, hey, get professional help. And it ain't going to be a two-session type of a thing, but you need to talk to a professional that could help you to hear each other.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. What about is a question here. Should your spouse know your finances?
I think we're back at the trust issue. I think if you want a trusting marriage, my obvious answer is yes. If I don't know your finances, why? And I'm asking you this question because I want you to give me the other side of that.
Sure.
So, could you think of a situation where it would be okay for them not to know your finances?
I guess only if you were deciding to leave and you're planning your exit.
And they're going to find out anyways because the forensic
Correct.
audit is going to
Sh-
reveal that. The reason is you can't partner with someone you don't trust. If I don't trust you enough to share my financial information, I can't really partner with you because you're not making decisions based on all the information. Now, are
Mm,
there some people married to spouses they can't trust and shouldn't trust with that information? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't think people are wrong for saying, hey, that person there, I ain't giving them no information. God
mhm.
only knows, right? But it's going to be hard to have a happy marriage with that person.
Dr. Shane, with that being said, when you go back to trust, do you believe that a marriage relationship, I'm talking about an invested relationship, even if it's not to the point of marriage, do you believe a relationship that has been portrayed by infidelity could survive that?
I see it survive it all the time. Do I see trust be a very difficult thing to overcome for people? It is. I think one of the worst things in the world you could do is steal somebody's trust. I'll be honest with you.
That's a good one.
Because they don't know what to believe or what not to believe. And it puts them in a really bad position. I think, whenever couples are in a situation where there's infidelity, it's just a very difficult thing to restore that trust. And some people, they're just going to do it again. But if you can't trust your partner, your spouse, you really can't move forward. And you're just going to have a very underachieving marriage and you're going to be miserable. So it's one of those things that I think most couples need professional help on, to be honest with you.
Mm. Do you believe people fall out of love and fall into lust in the marriage?
I think so. I think love is probably the most fickle emotion in the world. I don't know what's going on. If it's my side or your side, something I'm like
No, no, no,
but
no, no, no. That would be your side. That's
okay,
absolutely.
it's just
It's
not coming.
okay.
That's fine. Yeah. I think love is just a fickle emotion. Like
Uh huh.
couples fall in and out of love all the time. And yes, when people's emotional needs clash and the other person says that's not true, I think after a while the person goes numb. I think the
Mm,
person says they're never going to fix this. The worst thing I think couples could say is when a person or spouse tries to give them information about how they feel and they say, no, that's not true. You never
mm,
change the person's mind. Anyone ever change your mind in a relationship by saying what you're saying ain't true? No. It
right.
makes you double down on it and ultimately say, you're not going to fix this. I have to ask myself, can I live with this for the rest of my life? And when the
Mm-hmm.
person says no, now there's a void and it's very open to other people filling that void.
Mm-hmm.
And so when our emotional needs clash, we have to learn to ask some questions, at least three open-ended questions to get to their why. Well, why are you saying we don't spend enough quality time together? When's the last time we've been on a date? Okay, that part, right? Why else do you say that? Well, we never laugh. We used to go for walks. We used to text each other during the day. Boy, we used to be intimate every couple of days. Now, maybe once a month. Yeah, when that disappears, like you said, people get that void filled by other people, start to enjoy it, and now you have them lusting for someone else.
Couple more questions. So, have you worked with any couples where their faith or lack thereof has hindered their relationship? And I mean
Yeah,
faith in
I've
a
seen a
spiritual
lot.
sense.
I think a lot of people. Let me just kind of say one thing about the last question, and I'll get to this question.
Yes. Sure.
Some people have people that are just lustful people, and that's just who they are, and they're just serial philanderers and cheaters. Yeah, different story. So it's just because your spouse is having affairs doesn't mean you've necessarily been negligent. Some people are just happy and still do it too. That's just a different thing. I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to kind of close that out before I
Thank you.
move
Thank
forward.
you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. So when it comes to religion, I think yes. I think people evolve during the course of a marriage. Uh, I've seen it on all ends. I've seen where people were so dedicated to the church they neglected their marriage. I see where people were equally yoked, so to speak, and then one person discovers another form of religion.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen where people are in two religions, and one person is telling the kids and that other person that they're going to hell and they're going to burn in a lake of fire, and they don't recognize that. Yeah, Christmas has been commercialized, but grandma ain't got but two, three more left. And if we
Mm.
don't go by here with these kids, and I don't get to spend my Christmas, or it's going to be a problem, or I'm not going to the christening because I'm a different religion and I don't want them Christian. So
Mm-hmm.
it can be a very divisive thing. And it's more so because of the other relationships that are associated with things related to religion, like christening, like holidays.
I've come across some individuals who have relationships. They started off with going to church together or going to the temple together. The person believed that they came into the relationship this way. And I believe the other person believed that they were doing their best to meet that person, even though it was not their thing. And as time went on, the other just started slowly drifting back, and it was impacting that relationship. What are some of the steps, if you can just give a few, Dr. Shane, that you think that they could do to start working on that?
So the thing about cutting a deal is you have to give up some things you don't like. To cut a deal, you inevitably you have to give up something you don't like, and that's just the hard part. Like I don't like going to church, but it means the world to you. So let's figure it out. Boy, I'd like you here every 3 nights a week with me. Well, I'm not doing 3 nights, but I'll give you Sunday. We can go to the
Mm.
early morning session. I mean, we have to figure out if that's their core belief and that's their core value, how to cut a deal. But it might also be, I won't go with you to that church. So let's look for another church.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look for a church that ministers to us both. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's always asking enough questions to get to their why.
Mm-hmm.
Or I won't go because, boy, I see the way you follow the pastor, and that doesn't feel healthy to me. I think you're tithing beyond tithing at a time where we need you to pick up an extra job, but you're just very busy in church. And I'm not here to tell someone how to live their life. I'm telling you what I see.
Mm.
But the bottom line is we have to cut a deal that we both can live with. And if we can't do that, the church or anything can divide us.
Oh, Dr. Shin, you are on fire because when I tell you that what you're saying resonate with a lot of people I talk to, and I think a lot of people don't have the resources or the know-how to go and find the resources to ask these questions. They feel that they will be out of place. It's just not something they're interested in knowing at the time because it's uncomfortable for them. And they are not paying attention that the seesaw is falling slower and slower to the end of sinking opposed to keeping you afloat. So I'm so glad that that was one big thing that I needed to know about. How do you respect someone making a decision for themselves but not losing yourself in their decision or their undecisiveness? How do you not lose that? You love them. You love them, and not just love them because they're there. You love them because you're in love with them. But the person you're in love with is just doing just enough. And they think that should just be enough.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is you got to court people. You got to keep them happy. You got to figure out what their needs are
Mm.
and meet them. You can't say, "Oh, I got papers on you." I mean, you can. But people do it all the time, right? But don't be shocked if you end up paying a very high price for taking that approach, namely them being unhappy, possibly, like you say, them lusting for someone else. And it's like you just have to recognize I need to meet your emotional needs. And if I'm not interested in meeting your emotional needs, I could accept I'm probably going to lose you.
Ah, and some people are willing to do that. They're willing to. Let me not make that so broad. It appears to me that sometimes people are willing to lose you instead of giving up something to save you, and not just save you, save the both of you.
Yeah, and that just, I want to pivot back to the trust thing because I think trust is like extremely important. Because think about this trust, right? If you don't trust a person, communication isn't your problem. Because does it matter if you don't trust someone how well they articulate their position? Give you an example, right? We just voted. So if you were going to the booth and someone with a MAGA hat, I'm not saying what your political views or shouldn't be, was directing you to traffic, would you follow them?
Oh no,
Right. I don't trust you. They could be telling you exactly where to go, right?
no.
And it's not because they can't communicate. You just don't trust the messenger. And
Correct.
so when spouses get to the point where they don't trust their spouse, it doesn't work out the way they think they do. Think about it. When we don't trust somebody, do they trust us?
Mm,
No.
right.
And so now we can't cut a deal. If I say, hey, you need to go to church with me, okay, let me figure out a way to go. But you need to accept why I don't go. You need to be willing to look at that and you need to be willing to say, okay, let's cut a deal. I'll give up something, you give up something, and let's get our needs met. If couples can do that, their chances of living there happily ever after go way up. Like I
Mm,
said, divorce rates drop as much as 30% with an intervention. But if you have a trust problem in your marriage, you're going to need someone else in all likelihood to help you resolve it. And I'm not saying that person needs to be me. I'm saying it needs to be somebody that's outside that both of you are willing to say, let me give them a shot to.
mm. I could honestly, sit here and I'm sure the viewers can actually benefit from a lot of the questions. I'm going to wrap up my questions with two last questions. Dr. Shane, what do you think that we as the viewers need to walk away with when it comes to the Black love experience? Can you give us two things that you believe we should walk away with?
The first thing I want you to say, and I know people are shocked you're a marriage psychologist, I could be positive. Okay. The first thing I want viewers to take away, it might be positive, yeah, because I think of all the people in the universe, you chose each other, so chances are you'll be fine. It's never too late to live your happily ever after. It is never too late to live your happily ever after. The second thing is most couples struggle from a lack of skill, not a lack of will.
Mm,
So you probably have the will to make it. How do you get a skill? Because if you increase your skills, studies have found divorce rates drop as much as 30% with an intervention. So it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that you talk to. It could be a retreat. It could be a self-help book. It could be an online training. Whatever you need to get to develop the skills to match your will to live your happily ever after, I encourage you to invest in.
mm. And Dr. Shane, how could the viewers find you when they are in need of a Black therapist who knows how to help you do your work?
Simply go to AfricanAmericanMarriageCounseling.com or African American Marriage Counseling in Facebook or African American Marriage Counseling in Facebook groups. Any one of those will give you resources. I do Facebook Lives. I do things to keep, my clients and my couples to constantly developing their skills.
And I would echo that when if you would not regret if you go and follow Dr. Shane. I'm telling you, I looked at his work. I was very selective about having a conversation. I wanted to be transparent in the conversation and not feel like, oh, well, why are you asking this kind of question? Dr. Shane was very much open, and that's what I like. And I did not want to cheat you, the viewers, in watching this conversation take place live here. So I'm going to put Dr. Shane on this spot. Dr. Shane, I do hope that you are a very busy man. I already know that. You are a very busy man. People, look him up, and you're going to see this man's face on a lot of different things, doing great work amongst our people and many others. Please, Dr. Shane, I hope that you will accept this invitation to come back at a later date and time. Hopefully we have better connection and stuff like that, and that we can have another conversation, because I'm sure that the viewers will agree with me that this was worth the time.
Sounds good, Diamond. You have put me on the spot, but it is okay. I would gladly come back. I think you're doing important work. I think you're giving people information that's critical to not only them surviving, but them thriving in the world we live in. And so I just thank you for being a voice and being out here and saying, hey, how do I get people information? Because the people perish from a lack of knowledge. So thank you.
Thank you so much. To my viewers, again, let's drop some diamonds. Let's drop some flames in the comments for Dr. Shane. Drop a mic in the comments for Dr. Shane. Please follow him on all platforms mentioned on the show here. Please share this show. Also, go check him out on YouTube. You will not regret it. He's giving you free. You might want to throw some things in, but he's giving you free support, and you can always reference a lot of things that he's sharing there. I'm glad I will see you guys on the show next week. You know that we're here on this show every week. Okay, let's clear this out here. Okay, we are here every Monday at 6 p.m. with a live news show with special guests and hot topics. Please do me a favor. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up here. Click the share button. Check out Dr. Shane on his show, and come back and see us at another time. Listen, I already put him on the spot. I'm really hoping he'll come back and have another conversation. Maybe and say, Diamond, I want you to come over here and talk to me. Until next time, people, enjoy yourselves, be well, and I will see you next week. Bye. Have a great evening. Okay, Dr. Shane, thank you so much. You are freaking, I know you hear this. I know you hear